So welcome everybody, and I hope our experience can help inspire you all and maybe help you all not just reach those but maybe a lot of young people around you, which are going to be probably the next generation of advocates, and hopefully they could do even more than we're doing right now. So I'd like to, we're going to share some of the experiences we've had here at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago. For the last like about 8 years or so, we've been working in light pollution research, and a lot of that effort is connecting young people in our programs with the content about the importance of light pollution and working to try to improve it. So question to you all: what's the first thing you think of when you hear the phrase light pollution? I think this original effort for DarkSky International came out of really astronomers, right? And so, maybe the first thing that comes to mind is the starry skies, how much it really is impactful, and it makes so much of a important difference in our lives. Of course, it's an important aspect of light pollution and how it affects our environment. But some of our, by the way, a lot of what we're going to be talking about is sort of urban centric, for young people that live in cities, they have a far different experience, maybe a far different vocabulary about how light at night affects them. So this is actually one of the photographs from that Waleska will talk about in a project she worked with students in Chicago with, called Photovoice. And I think it's a real interesting way to really connect with what younger people are thinking and what their experience is like. So we can't just assume that the things that maybe we're thinking about when we think about light pollution are the same things that young people do. In fact, just a little bit of a research that's happened over the last number of years. As you can see, like 60% of Europeans and 80% of North Americans cannot see the Milky Way from where they live. And actually in that study, 9 countries are so bright that 90% of their populations do not even use night vision because it's so bright just ambiently because of the light pollution. And those countries are in the bottom there. And in a very recent study that came out last year from researcher Chris Kaiba and some other folks, found out that using community science work, that light pollution is increasing at 10% per year. Now, the reason why I mention all this is because of those previous slides. And Chris had a really great quote about the results that they were seeing, and I'll read it out. It says, "At this rate of change, a child born where there are 250 stars visible would only be able to see about 100 by the time they became an adult." So if you think about the way that light affects a young person at night, it might not be the same way that, because of, if they've never seen the Milky Way, why would you even care to observe it? So I throw the question back. It's like, well, what's the first thing a teen thinks of when they hear the phrase light pollution? And there's a really good answer to it. You have to ask. So I'm going to turn it over to Waleska to kind of go to the next chapter of some of our efforts here in Chicago.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Hello, everybody. So the Youth Organization for Lights Out has been around since 2016, so for about 80 years. And we have worked, so the main goal of YOLO is to work with environmental justice and light pollution, and also concentrating on the topics that young people wanted to learn more and what they want to advocate for. So for that, we have thought about how we could start to work with young people in a way that they could share their thoughts. So photo voice is a really good example of that. Could we jump to the next slide, Ken? Okay, so photo voice is a method where young people, and I mean any community member, we can use it with any community member when we have a topic of environmental justice or environmental issue, and we want to learn from the community what they know about that topic and how it impacts their lives. So it includes community members going outdoors, taking pictures, and exploring how they have been impacted. So we talked about light pollution and environmental justice, and at first, the young people from YOLO, which is a program that's based at Little Village Landale High School in Chicago, Illinois. That's a community that's mostly Mexican and the Mexican Americans. And then at first, the students mentioned that they didn't know how light pollution impacted them. So they were not sure about how they have impacted and what they could do about light pollution. So when I first asked them the question, how does light pollution impact you? The students said that they didn't think there was any specific examples that they could give how they have been impacted until one of the students, so here are some of the examples of the photovoice project of the photos that the students took and they brought to the sessions. First, of course, we needed to introduce them to learn more about light pollution because most of the students have never heard about light pollution before. Then it's really important to have a lot of conversations. So based like learning from other examples from their peers, so they can be aware about how light pollution has been impacting them. Then one of the students brought a video. If we could go to the next slide, you can. So let's take a look at this video, and I just want to give a warning that the content may be disturbing to some individuals, so you can just turn away for a few seconds if that's disturbing to you. Could you play that again? Thank you.
I popped out of my window. Yeah, that is actually worse in person. I can't even stare at it. I'm sorry. This is located in front of my room. I can't even sleep because of it. But yes, that is my room. It also shows in the living room. So I am closing my blinds again. So annoying.
So that video changed the perspective of all the other students when this student brought to this video, because at first she was one of the students who said, I don't think light pollution impacts my life. Then all the other students started to think about how light pollution impacts their lives too, and they start to bring examples. So photo voice goes along with, again, a lot of conversation, so the students can share their life experience. They can share that with one another, and they also empower one another to understand the impacts and also how they want to advocate and make changes in their community, and they also in their life is like how they have been personally impacted by a specific environmental injustice topic, in this case, light pollution, for example. So then the students started to bring different narratives of how they were impacted. And this goes, so we have like, first we take the photos, then after that we talked about how you get impacted, and we write a narrative, and we choose like the theme is that students were facing like similar impacts of light pollution. And with that, we had we put together an exhibit at the planetarium, at the Adler Planetarium, called the Little Village Night Sky. So we already had this exhibit area called the Chicago Night Sky, where guests can learn more about light pollution, its impact is, and what we can do to reduce light pollution. And the Little Village Night Sky was written in English and Spanish from youth from this high school, and they designed the whole exhibit is sharing their perspective. So other guests who visit the planetarium can also learn about light pollution with real life examples from the students. And Ken, could you play the video of the exhibit? Thank you. So this is the Little Village Night Sky exhibit that goes along with the narrative in English and Spanish, and with the photos that the students took sharing about their experience. So with that, we also needed to think about not just showing what is happening and how we get impacted, but which solutions we want to get from, which solutions we wanted to make, and what we want to do with the information that we had. So the student is, and I didn't mention that this flickering light from one of the YOLO participants was from an elementary school. So the students mentioned that before changing the lights and they talk about lights from other schools, we also had to take a look at your school. And this light, this flickering light also got changed when we had the community presentation. So before we had the Little Village Night Sky at the planetarium, we brought that exhibit and the students present in their community with one of our local partners. And then after that, they fixed that light. And that's something we really would like to understand who was the person who contacted them. But then we don't, unfortunately, we have asked around, but we don't have that information. But that was very powerful to see how like getting the community together was really important to make that change, and they at least change like this flickering light. So then with that, we end up working on the lighting inventory because the students wanted to change the lights in their school. And the lighting inventory, that's something we're currently working on. And we partnered with Edward Bartolomeo from Light Justice, who gave feedback to the students as well on how we can improve the lights in the school. And that's an ongoing process. And another thing I want to mention is the importance of community engagement. So when we are working in this community, the first thing is we need to listen and to understand what young people want to work on. So how light pollution impacts them, and what they want to do, what type of projects they wanted to work on, because we could bring a curriculum to them and to present how light pollution is. But that's very important for them to share how they feel and what they want to do. And also it's really important to have local partners in the community. So we work with a community organization that's called the Enlace Chicago. And we have worked with other community organizations as well. So it's really important to have like this partnership to be culture relevant for the community as well. Then we also have events in the community because the goal of YOLO is for the young people to also spread the word and teach others in the community about light pollution, about how the community gets impacted. So students share the information with their parents, family members, and we have an event called the Night Out in the Parks that we partner with Chicago Park District. And then we have a mariachi band to be culture relevant. We bring telescopes. We talk about light pollution, and that's a way to educate community members as well. And we also have a lot of events at the planetarium where we bring family members and the other community members to the planetarium, and we talk about light pollution together.
So amazing work Waleska's been doing with the YOLO program, but we also have other programs that we do with students at the Adler Planetarium that actually may have ways that you can connect with young people in your community as well. And one of the first things we do, and it's very much just like what Waleska was describing about the experience of Kiana with the not even recognizing that there was an issue until you sort of as a group realize that, oh, there's something that I hadn't even noticed before. And then I think, as a lot of once someone tells you about light pollution, you can't unsee it. So one of the first things we do with our students, because we describe that urban environment that they're so used to, is take them to some place. Now, we're a very light polluted region around Chicago, so the opportunities are not that great, but at least there are some places that we can go to as like a field trip to say, like, you know what, it doesn't always have to be like this. So the Indiana Dunes is a national park, about a hour drive away from Chicago, right along the lake shore of Lake Michigan. And from here's the students we took out a little while ago to for a night out where they're not subjected to direct light in their face all the time. And you can actually see from this perspective, looking back towards Chicago across the lake, the light pollution becomes very, very obvious. And it kind of puts it into context. Instead of being inside it, you can actually kind of look toward it now. So looking the other direction, by the way, for any of you folks who are so, uh, uh, privileged to actually have beautiful dark skies, this might not be the most impressive view of the sky you've ever seen, but this is looking away from Chicago, and you can actually see stars. In fact, some of our students, for the first time in their lives, actually saw the Milky Way. So, it was, one of those things that it's like, now it's really coming home. Now I'm really understanding the context of the environment that they live in. So it's a very similar kind of moment where it's like, oh, I didn't realize what I was missing. So I think that's a really important part of, especially if you're working with kids that are from urban areas, that, there is a way to sort of get an idea of what the environment could be like. And that actually helps motivate toward a goal. So in Far Horizons, which is part of our program that is more involved in engineering and scientific research. It's a very hands-on experience, and this is something where you're seeing a lot of images here of our students who helped design and build an all-sky camera, a small little device that can actually monitor the entire night sky for the amount of light pollution there is there. They actually helped engineer and design and build this instrument. But a lot of what we do is also using SQMs. If any of you are familiar with, sky quality meters, they're also a really good way, simple way to get sky quality readings. So since we're in the city, there's not many opportunities to actually see what an environment, a nighttime environment, would be like away from city lights. So we actually partnered with the forest preserves of Cook County, so our county forest preserves, to use their lands at night, which are normally not open at night, but as a sort of an urban laboratory, a local laboratory, to do qualitative readings, between what their neighborhood looks like. So we'd have teens actually take readings from their neighborhoods and then go to the forest preserves, and just to kind of give you a little context of what the forest preserve area, it's called Palos Preserves, that after about 2 years of work, and this is involving the teens taking light quality readings with SQMs and with our cameras. They collected the data and the information needed to apply to DarkSky International for an urban night sky place designation. So it's about a 7,000 acre area, still to this date, the world's largest urban night sky place. And this is a satellite image of the lights of that area. And I want to put it into context, and this is the Chicago area. There we go. So you can see that this area is very unique. Our urban night sky place is so important to us because it's like I was saying, we take students to trips to be able to see an environment that's not as light polluted or covered in lights as they're used to. And it's been a really valuable experience because the students, since they had a hands-on experience of doing the night sky readings, and it was pretty easy to train them to do that. If you've ever used SQMs, it's like, as long as you follow the protocols, you can actually do a lot of good science. So it was that information that actually helped lead to the designation of the Palos Preserves. So, like I said, in 2022, we finally got our designation for the Palos Preserves. And there's our application cover right there. And on the right, since they had all this experience saying, oh, I know how to now collect data to quantify the quality of a night sky, they used that skill and knowledge to we once again worked with the forest preserves to start an entire community science volunteer program. They're called the DarkSky monitors. So the DarkSky monitors actually go out every month in the Palos preserves and collect light readings, mainly with SQMs. And they were trained by the students who had that experience, that they are now, in a sense, experts in quantifying night skies in different areas. So now we actually have a volunteer program that was started by the teens that is actually ongoing and very successful, because it actually helps with our application process as well, our application of the reporting process for the designated night sky place. So before we get to questions, I forgot. We have some great special guests. So Waleska, are you guys ready?
Yes, we are ready. We have two participants of the Youth Organization for Lights Out, YOLO, and they will share about how was their experience in the program and about light pollution. So I will invite Kiana Lorenzo to share more, and then we're gonna open up for questions.
Hello. As you all know, I'm Kiana Lorenzo, and something I would like to share is when I first began YOLO, the reason why I got into it was because at first I wasn't really interested until I was dragged by someone that you're gonna meet very soon. And so the first days when I joined, I was a little confused on what we had to do, or like what we were gonna be learning about. But later on, like I kept on coming and we learned more about what is light pollution. And I was one of the participants who didn't know what light pollution was. And I was not aware of that I had light pollution. And I'm the one who recorded that video you guys saw earlier where it was in front of the elementary school. I was with the flickering light. That is something I thought about. I'm like, wait, this gets inside my room and I always have like struggle sleeping. And it affects me because obviously I have school the next day. I will wake up very tired. I won't even want to get out of bed, to be honest. And when I get to my classes, I tend to fall asleep in them. And so another thing I would like to share is our engagement with the community. So like Waleska said, we've done some events with the community where we would invite the community and our family members to come join us and learn about what was light pollution. That event where you see the mariachis pictures, we did that at La Bellita Park. And what we did there was we had like some flyers and we were passing them around to the community to come join us. And like anybody we saw, we just gave them a flyer. We're like, come join us, learn about light pollution. What is light pollution? We also heard some good, we also learned that it's not only like some people who have difficulties with schools. It could be like other types of things, like the headlights of the car or the street lights. So we got a lot of good information from the community themselves on what they were struggling with. And it opened my mindset because I'm like, wow, there is so much light pollution and I never thought about it. And it was pretty amazing to learn about this whole process of light pollution. And like I said, we all got to we had like a team who joined YOLO. I was working with Waleska in like teaching the new people who were coming into YOLO. And I I felt pretty amazed because I was able to connect with them as I wanted to. We all worked together, and learned together, and it was very fun. I loved my experience with YOLO, and I'm thinking about joining again, and it's getting there. Like I might join again. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Kiana. So Kiana has been in the program for 2 years, and the last term she was a youth leader, working with the other youth, recruiting new participants, and also sharing her experience in the program, and also take a leadership role to help other youth to advocate for changes when we talk about light pollution. Now I would like to invite Ashley Garcia. She's also here with us, and she's also going to share her experience in the program.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm also one of the participants or like leaders for YOLO. Valeska mentioned earlier that our like goal was to inform people. It didn't matter if it was adults, kids, our own family members. That's what I did. Because my mom was very she wanted to know what I did in the program, so I was telling her stories about what we were doing, that um the problems. I was giving her like examples of light pollution, like even when we went in our nightly like car ride, I would point to different like things like, oh, the gas station, like see how much light there is there. That's not good. That's not good. So um I was really like she was really impressed of like how light can do like so much damage, and I was impressed too because it's like you don't really think how light affects you unless you're like in a program like this that educates you so much in that specific problem. um you just don't really think about the harm it could do, because I personally I suffer from like sleep problems, and it comes and goes sometimes, but it lasts like for over a month sometimes, and it's really hard for me to even go to sleep or like stay asleep because of the lights. And then um I started using like different things to cover the windows so the light wouldn't get in. It worked, but then like things fall, and then it doesn't cover as much anymore. But yeah. Mm, what else can I talk about? We went to like Indiana Dunes uh to see the stars, but I personally thought that we were just gonna have a day of fun at the beach, but then we stayed overnight and stuff like that. Like we did have fun, but then we also got educated about like the stars. You see the difference between like seeing the stars, and then you saw Chicago from far away, and you saw the difference. So that was really amazing because it was some other experience.
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, I think these are examples from some of the participants from the YOLO program. And I also want to mention to wrap up before we open for questions, that we needed to be very flexible when we are working with youth. A lot of times they don't know what light pollution is, for example. So we needed to educate them and introduce the topic to them, and listening to what I'm sorry, just one sec. Okay. we are at the high school right now. So yes, we needed to be open to learn about their community, what matters to them. So then this way we can deliver the program in a way that's going to be culture relevant and always being flexible, being able to adapt, because we needed to be open to work with the community organizations, and they also be able to align with their schedule, how they can work with us, thinking about capacity building, how we can support and to lift up the communities, and in a way that we can do our work together and collaborate. So I don't know if you want to share anything else before we wrap up and do open up for questions.
Oh, I think did a great job. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing what other people would love to learn and know.
And thanks, Ken. Thanks, Waleska, for sharing with us today. And thanks, folks off camera in Waleska's office. Hi, thank you. Great to hear from you. Yeah, folks, we will get started with questions. If you do have anything, please throw it in the chat or do it in the Q&A, because we do have a few others that we'll be going through first. First, again, just thank you for coming and speaking with us today. There's been a lot of inspiration I've read through in the chat. One of the first things you said is, focusing on what young people are thinking and experiencing in life. That's a great first question to focus on. I think maybe as adults, we try to fix way too many things in our life, and it's really, this is a time to listen and experience with them. Could you share your perspectives on maybe those early days of building the program and how you came to that mindset?
Waleska, do you want to, or?
Oh, sorry.
You want to share? Okay.
You
can go.
So when we first started YOLO, not as many people thought about joining until I came to when was it? Fall. So on our second year of when we returned from spring break, came to school. I was helping out, and we created flyers and handed them out. We also scheduled meetings to go inside classrooms to talk about our program YOLO. And the results were surprising. We had 60 people, around 60 students who wanted to join, but we have a limit to the program, so we had to do interviews, and we came down to 15 teens in our school. And in this school, there's four. It's one high school, but there's four in this high school. So we have World Language, Soldier, Infinity, and Moss. And when we have a program here, everyone's invited. So from all the four schools, everybody's invited. So we had students from World Language, Soldier, from different campuses coming together as one to join this program. And this program helps with lots of community, and it's also good for education. I really love this program because I got to meet new people. I also got to learn about others and their experiences. And I also did learn a lot about light pollution because I do lots of poetry, and my main focuses are things that people already talk about, the environment of water pollution and other types. But I never knew or even thought about light pollution. So this program was amazing. I love this so much. That's why I joined again. That's why I came for my second year. I'm gonna join. But I highly recommend this program, and it's very good.
Waleska, did you see some questions about whether this could be kind of translated to other museums and other science institutions and things like that?
Yes, I definitely think that it could be adapted to, I mean, any other museums or other after school programs. Because so we have, I think photo voice is a method that could be used anywhere, and you always need to be mindful how you adapt to the community interest, to the young people interest. But these are very easy steps to follow. So because with photo voice is about taking photos to reflect and see like the photos you're taking, how you have been impacted, then having meaningful conversations with the community. And that's when you adapt. You can replicate the program, but that's when you adapt. Because here we did in Little Village at this high school, but if we're doing another community in Chicago, that's going to look different. So when you talk about environmental justice, for example, there are communities that have that's brighter than other communities. So it's going to look different when you adapt that to your community, but I definitely think that's program that we can replicate, and we can use it like this method to follow up and find the interest that the specific youth from that community want to work on.
Nice. Yeah, it really starts with that initial conversation, approaching your partner organization or planetarium to say, hey, I'd like to support your efforts in doing this, and starting that conversation, right?
Mhm.
Somebody did ask in the chat, do you have internal documentation or program requirements that you could maybe provide as a template in the future?
Yeah, so that's actually something we are working on with a grant that we just received. So we are in the first steps of that, but we would be developing a curriculum concentrated on light pollution that it could be replicated, and we would have more resources. Right now, we don't have a lot of resources. We can, and I are always open like to talk to anybody who's interested in implementing light pollution programs for youth, but we don't have a ton of resources to send out. But we are definitely open like to have these conversations and support.
I'm
That's
actually
great.
wondering, is there some documentation on photo voice itself as a method?
Yes, I can share. I can share some resources later, like for photo voice specifically. So there is, from my knowledge, YOLO is the only program that used photo voice so far. But photo voice has been used for many years with different types of pollution and environmental concerns. And we don't have anything published about the method with it, because with light pollution it looks a little bit different, because if you're taking pictures at night, you needed to think about how you'd be taking, and to be able to reflect how the light pollution you look like in the area that you are recording. But we definitely we can share like a general structure, but we don't have anything published yet.
Sure.
And I was also going to say that we do have a few resources that we could share, if especially if DarkSky has a way to maybe put it together. We have a few activities that we've designed over the years that kind of introduce students to the issue of light pollution. There's one where we actually use the website Radiance Light Trends that students, and we do have it documented like actual school curriculum, so with goals and steps along the way and the resources you'd need. So the Radiance Light Trend one, as an example, it's a website. If you've never been to it, it's amazing, where you can select a polygon, and so you put it around your city or your neighborhood, and it'll show you how bright it's been and what the trend has been over the last decade. So in that activity, what we'll do is have students, everybody chooses their neighborhood and they see how bright it is, and then they choose anywhere in the world that they'd be interested in. A lot of times it's kids that maybe have grandparents in another country or someplace they visited, and then they can do an actual comparison and say, oh my god, I didn't realize how different it is, or and so that's sort of like one of those helpful aha moments that we've tried to design. So we have a few resources like that for education purposes.
Yeah, it would be great to include that type of documentation with our other materials for educators alongside that coursework and guidelines. Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Could you share the name of that site again?
Oh, it's called Radiance Light Trend. Here, actually, I will drop the. How if I drop the link in the?
Wonderful. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. We do have another question for any other partner organizations, supporters, or mentors you've come across after building the YOLO program or supporting these types of program with the students. Have you seen a lot of involvement from the outside, or as you've started to trend throughout the years, or is it really focused on internal staff?
Yes, I would say we see a lot of engagement now from, so for example, there is another organization that recently reached out in Little Village that's called the Alliance 98 to find other ways to partner and they continue to work together. We work with Enlace Chicago as well. And I think especially because we have the Little Village Night Sky exhibit at the planetarium. So we have that resource that the community is very proud of because it says the name of the community, their young people worked on that. So after we started working on that, we saw more community members and community organizations getting together. And I think the Night Out in the Parks event that we do with Chicago Park District is also a way that we have to communicate and have some time with the community to explore the ways that we can continue to work together and have meaningful partnerships that will also benefit the community.
Nice. Very nice. Now, Ken, of course, we thought of you when we found about this movie premiere coming up in Chicago. I'm wondering, not to put you too much on the spot, but a related youth effort. Could you share a little bit about what you'll be attending later this month?
Yeah, it's a environmental film festival for young people. So it's an organization that actually started here near Chicago. It's going on for I think about a decade, and they have an environmental film festival every year. But then they added a youth film festival as well. So just surprised me. I think you guys reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're in Chicago." And it's going to be on the 22nd or something of September. And it just happened to be that one of the entrants was a group of high school students from California who did a short documentary about the importance of dark skies. And it, like I said, we didn't know anything about it, but it was great that they're doing it. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Going to the world premiere later this month. Thanks, Ken. Wonderful. Another question. Curious if you've done any work with younger kids, maybe 6, 8, to introduce them to the concept at an earlier age.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question because that's actually our plan for this next 3 years. That would be going to work with younger, not younger. I wouldn't say around 6, but like from the elementary school. Our plan is to, when we are with this new grant we're going to be working on, is to expand the program so the YOLO participants can go to the elementary schools and teach the younger kids about light pollution and the impact is in the community specifically. So that's something that's a long term, and we'll be working on to develop this. So for like this next term, we are gonna start YOLO in a few weeks. We are start to build this relationship to go to these elementary schools, talking to principals, and the YOLO participants will be the ones having like being part of that, and also thinking how we could work with younger kids and what they would like to learn about light pollution, how we can educate them.
If you don't mind, so I'm looking at the chat and I see Tiago, how your frustrations with dealing with government on a large level is always challenging. I mean, but one of the things that sort of relates to YOLO and also some of the other teen work we've done, I found that you could just use this small example of Kiana's light across the street at the school was fixed because of them kind of speaking out and saying hey, this isn't right. And then, as Waleska mentioned, the next step is actually doing a lighting inventory and a lighting assessment of the quality of the lighting at their school. So I think sometimes those small victories are the thing that actually lead to a larger understanding and sort of awareness. And then especially since it's teen-led, student-led, I think it really motivates others to say like, hey, you know what, if they have the wherewithal and the inspiration to do this, maybe we should be acting on a larger scale. So I think they're great messengers for the larger cause.
Nice, great answer. That's wonderful. Yeah, kind of related to that, we have a question. I feel like this might come from one of our chapters or advocates out there. What thoughts do you have how to get more youth involved with DarkSky initiatives? Sometimes, we feel we ask a lot of our youth, and it can be difficult to encourage to commit with their limited time. How do you see that play into some of the programs that the YOLO kids are doing as actual, advocacy for the night? Or are you really focused on educating and broad awareness?
Mhm. Yes, I agree that we need to be mindful of not asking too much of the youth because, I mean, they already have a lot in high school, a lot of other things they are dealing with. So I would say always being flexible. So, for example, if we have some work to do or if we have a field trip and we needed to change the date, being flexible with that to be able to listen to what they need so we can work together, because it's not, because if we just put a lot on the youth but they're not able to be present because that's too much, their engagement is not going to be the same. So I would say, I think the word would be flexibility. It's always being flexible, understand what would work for them or not, and how they can get involved. Even if that's in a small scale, that's really important that they are involved. So just like being open-minded with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everybody's looking for social media help with the website, but our youth are better. They're more than just that. They can conversate, they can table, they can create, have some of those conversations for sure. Yeah, that's great. Folks, we're almost up on time, so I'll allow for a few more questions, but just a reminder, we will open this up for networking at the top of the hour. So Ken, Waleska, if you do want to stay and hang out for about 30 minutes at the top of the hour, we'll open up the room and make some breakout rooms for folks to connect. Yeah, Amy, let me find the mute button and I will let you ask your question. Go ahead.
Thank you for presenting so much. I love hearing about this program. I just have logistical questions, and you may have answered this and I missed it, but I'm just curious about the structure of it. I'm guessing it meets after school. Like how many hours, how often? Is it the whole year? Was it each semester?
Sure. So we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour and a half. So from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And talking about flexibility, when I started working with the students, we used to meet for 2 hours. Then the students start talking to me and they asked if we could meet for an hour and a half. So I was flexible with that. If we're still working together and delivering the program and doing the work we had to do, that would be okay to do an hour and a half. So we changed it. And one of the reasons was also in the fall when it started getting dark, some of the students had to walk home by themselves. And the parents were concerned about them leaving after 5:30. So they asked about that. And also the program runs from each term. So we have a fall term and a spring term. And at the beginning, we had a school year program. And then also, after listening to the students and what would work better for them, we decided that it would be better to have each term. And then if the youth would be able to continue in the program, they could continue. But if not, that would be better. They could commit for a short period of time.
Thank you.
Sure.
A few of the other questions asked, well, what can we do now? And I would like to briefly mention, we do have a another youth out of, I believe she's in Virginia, that has recently started the DarkSky Youth Coalition. So if you're on the Advocate Slack community, that'll be the best place to learn more and get involved. And I'll share a link to her message, but really looking to organize youth across the region to talk more about light pollution, to have an easy way to coordinate over, Zoom or Teams or online, and then also help influence DarkSky on what can we do better. Someone mentioned TikTok, and we are on TikTok, but we don't have much content, right? So we're thinking 9:16 style content, but also things that engage students and families from that youth perspective. Not all adults, we don't have all the answers as much as we would like to think so. So hopefully by engaging that type of community, if you do have recommendations to folks out in your parts of the world, or if you do want to get more people connected with the mission, I'll share this message now. But otherwise, you can also reach out directly to me if you wanted to learn more and get involved with that. So at this point, I think we will end the official session. Thanks again, Ken and Waleska. It was amazing to hear from you today. I know this topic is on a lot of people's minds, especially as the mission grows, and to see that, future leaders also emerge, because these are really the students that will be changing the world for us once we're done working on it. So with that, thanks again. Folks, if you do want to stay around for networking, please do. I'll open it up in just a few moments here. But Ken, Waleska, any last words for our advocates out there in the ether?
Boy, that's a lot. I would say if you have the capability, there's no better way to inspire not only the community but also young people, is just get engaged with them. Do some, find out ways in your local community that you can actually connect with young people to get them aware of this issue, because that's one of the things that we found, is that, like Kiana's story is perfect example. It's like, I didn't even realize I had a problem until they were their eyes were open to it.
Yes, I agree, Ken. I think connecting with young people and the listen, and I know I said that many times, but that's really important, because we know that, but when we have to practice that, sometimes it's harder, because being an adult, that's why you mentioned, Chris, sometimes the young people think we know everything, but we don't, and we do need them, like, especially if we want to have a program for them to support them. And with that, Kiana wants to say a few words, and I want to give her space, make a space for her to share that as well.
Yeah.
Hi. Something I would like to say as a teen, if you have the patience with us teenagers and the patience, the mindset, and we will also give you that in return. That's something I've done, because Waleska's given us the time to learn more about this light pollution. I did learn. She did take us to to Indiana Dunes, and that's a perfect inspiration right there. Just inspire kids by some kids are visual learners. So if you get to know the teenager more, the better, because later on you get to find out in what ways or what you can do to inspire them. And for me, I'm a visual learner. I like to see things. So when I saw the stars in Indiana Dunes, that's the whole reason why I wanted to rejoin. I'm like, I want to see this more. I'm like, we need to have this back, because I compared it to here, Chicago, and I compared it to over there in Indiana, and big difference right there. I was inspired.
Wonderful.
Okay. It's also like having a balance between having fun and then also being like serious about the work, because like Valeska said before, it's like like being flexible but also having that connection, and not like because we're used to teachers giving us lessons and just them going on and on about the lessons that they are teaching, and that you have to listen to that person because it's like higher authority over you. Like uh, it was hard getting used to like Valeska saying, "Oh, I'm not a teacher to you guys. I'm just here to educate you." And I'm like, it's kind of the same as a teacher, but it's also like, once the program continued, like I saw how flexible she was, and like she knew how to really connect with the teens on a deeper level. Like she didn't treat us like she didn't treat us as like she's the superior one and we're just like students. No, she didn't do that. Um she really said like we're on the same level, like no one's higher than the other. So it's really just like having that balance.
One more thing I would like to add real quick, just to wrap up. Reminder on what is life. Life is not all about work. It's about having balance. So I highly recommend doing that. I've learned that during this program.
That's wonderful. Sage advice from our youngest participants. I just love that.